to the channel. Guys, I'm going out to check a PT Cruiser. Here it is right here. Okay. No crank, no start, none of that. All right, let's see, let's verify the problem first. This is a stick, so of course, naturally, you should be on the clutch. Turn the key, absolutely nothing. So this is a no crank. Okay, now this car was towed in from another shop. We get that all the time, guys. A lot of shops, man, they do, I don't want to dog anybody out, but they tend to do a lot of guessing. In fact, I get a lot of calls from shops trying to pick my brain. Now, I don't really have a problem with it. Well, I semi have a problem with it because in order to pick my brain, you got to have the same tools that I'm relating to, because what I'm gonna tell you is based off my past experience and the tools I use to get to the point that I get to. Now, sure, there's a basic understanding of no start, actually no crank. Let's stick with no crank. We're dealing with no crank. All right, now, as basically, I say 3. There's more, but I'm gonna stick with this 3. You need 3 things to crank, ladies and gentlemen. One being the starter. Of course, it has to get the signal in order to perform the cranking duties. All right, another one is, I'd say the key. Now, this particular car, mostly all the newer cars are equipped with what we call a security skim module. So naturally, it's gonna have a security key. In this case, if it's a gray or silver key, it has a security system on it. If it's a black key, then it is not equipped with a security system. You need that. And third, and last but not least, the brain. Okay, the good part, or the only part about the brain, one of the main inputs from the brain that's needed to allow cranking is it has to get to the relay. You have to really understand the circuitry. Okay, that's a starter relay, and that starter relay is looking for a ground input from the controller in order to allow cranking. Now, what will stop that, I say at least 2 of them I know. What would stop those ground inputs from making it to the starter relay is, 1, the car has to be in park or neutral, okay? It would snatch away that ground if the car is not in park or neutral. That is a safety mechanism in place, allowing you not to crank the car in the event that you are in gear. They don't want you starting the car while you're in gear. Another one is input from the security system. Okay, so if you don't have security, you don't have that issue, but there's a ground signal that comes from the security module that tells the computer the owner actually has the key. It's not being stolen. Okay, that's the security system. All right, so those 2 inputs are 2 that I know of that has to be there to allow cranking. But the couple of tools that I use when doing cranking diagnosis, real simple, guys. A test light and a jumper wire. Okay, where I do most of my no crank diagnostic is at the starter relay. All right, so let's gain access to the starter relay real quick. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the starter relay. Okay, now if you suspect starter relay being your problem, it's real simple. Grab a relay next to it. In this case, it would be the AC relay. Okay, that's very unimportant right now. We're trying to find out why the car will not crank. So simply, this is the first easiest thing you can do. All right, so let's just place that in there and go back in the car and see if it cranks. Again, that is probably one of the easiest things you can check. No crank, ladies and gentlemen. All right, moving right along. I'm gonna leave the key on because I want to check and make sure I have power supply at pin 30. You all know how a typical ISO relay work. Pin 30 is normally the power supply from the main fuse. It has to be hot. It has to be 12 volts. Let's go and check. All right, so I suspect you really need to know the circuitry before you start this, but I suspect this is pin 30. Yes, it's normally in this location. All right, and the pin next to it is normally probably 86, which comes from, in this case, the ignition switch. So if I put my test light right here and I have a helper turn the key on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, this should light. All right, now this probably pin 85 from the computer, from the controller. Okay, you got to have that in order to allow cranking. And of course this one is pin 87, which goes directly to the load, in this case the starter. Okay, so let's do some real quick, man. I always like to isolate the circuit, try to move diagnosis along real fast. So what I'm gonna do, since we know that pin 30 is already power supply, let's stick a jumper wire. Like I said, I do most of my no starts fairly quickly using the starter relay. Let's send 12 volts directly to the starter and see if the starter cranks. Okay, we now know that that circuit is complete from the starter relay to the starter. All right, what you need to have now is those inputs that I talked about earlier. Okay, now let's verify if we getting power supply pin likely 86 as the key turning on, off, on, off, on, off. All right, I'm gonna have to go get a helper real quick. Let's do it. All right, turn the key on, off, on, off, on, off. All right, as you can see, the light was flashing on, off as he was turning the key back and forth, back and forth. Okay, now, so that comes from the ignition switch. We know that circuit is complete from the ignition switch. So the only thing is left is right here. All right, this has to be ground. Okay, you will never crank if this is not ground. That's how ISO relay work. Okay, a coil has to have a positive side and a negative side for it to energize and cause this load or this power source here to go over to the load to allow the load to operate. All right, now I will not typically I would put you could put your test light on positive and check and see if ground coming here, but I don't want to use this light. I really rather use my LED light. And another thing you can do, you can build yourself a relay isolation kit where you have all the terminals and you can just manually ground this terminal to ground, turn the key, and it should spin over. Now you will not run because that ground signal is an indication that everything else is okay. Okay, so if this PCM not getting any, it's not even working at all, you will not get that ground and it will not run. So by isolating the circuit, by going around it, building your own kit instead of putting manual ground right there, because you could potentially spike out the computer. So all right guys, so I am quite confident now that my problem lies with this controller. Okay, I am not getting the ground signal possibly at pin 85. I think that's pin 85, but I have to have ground there to allow cranking. All right, so I'm pretty confident this is my problem. Now, even if you should, from here you should grab a scan too and see if you can even talk to the computer. Okay, because if you can and you're still not getting that ground signal, it's just the output is missing. Okay, now keep in mind that computer is looking for inputs in order to deliver those outputs. Okay, I said that earlier. Now, because this is a stick or it's not an automatic, being in park and neutral don't matter at this point. Okay, so, and you will not, actually I don't even think that input exists on a manual transmission, because the clutch, being on the clutch will interrupt the starting input to the starter relay at pin 86. So hypothetically, if my guy that was in here turning his key wasn't on the clutch, he would not even be getting, we would not even be getting that power source at pin 86. So pressing on the clutch essentially closes the circuit. All right, so that is not an input. Now, this still could be an input because this is security. And because the security light is not flashing, I merely think you just have a dead PCM. Okay, so what I'm going to do for this car is simple. Go order a controller. Okay, this is like a 01, 02 first generation PT. It happens all the time. I see it all the time. So what I'm going to do is go get a PCM. We'll go write up a PCM. Now, keep in mind with these PCM, I think they are discontinued and brand new at the dealer. So if you just happen to get a used one, you will have to program it and marry it to your car. If your key look like this represents security skim module. Okay, you will have to tell your new computer to look like this. Okay, you will have to marry these two. You can't just grab a used PCM, plug it in, and it go. You can if your key is black. If your key is black, you don't have security system. So you can merely go get a PCM with the same part number, same features, plug it in, and it is now plug and play. Only because your key is black and you do not have security system equipped on your car. All right, so now we got that out the way. Let me go and write up this computer, and we're gonna go from there, guys. If I get one, I'll try to film. I don't know what kind of computer they're gonna get me. I don't know if it's gonna be, I don't know if dealers have access to brand new one, or we have to get a pre-programmed PCM, because I heard somewhere you can get them pre-programmed now. All right, I will find out and let you know. But for now, let me close this video. Thanks for watching this no crank diagnostics on this Generation 1 01 PT Cruiser. Now, the no crank diagnostic can apply to any car. Okay, just about all the cars have a starter relay. All right, it's just the technology out right now. You're gonna have some form of a starter relay in place. All right, so which makes this diagnosis could be used on any car. All right, so let me end this video, and I will get back with y'all when I get the new PCM. All right, thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video.